October is seen as the month of horror, and that is due to the Halloween holiday following at the end of the month. So with that in mind, I wanted to take a look at my favorite horror icon, Jason Voorhees. Now, despite not even being in the first film in the way that we know him today, he has become one of the most popular slasher villains of all time. And with that comes a lot of merch. But it did take a while for him to get some action figures. And we're going to take a look at his toy history today, along with his contemporary characters that also appear in his series. So sit back, relax, turn on a light, I'd recommend, because it's about to get very dark as we take a look at the history of Jason Voorhees in action figure form. The first to take over the license is McFarlane Toys back in 1999. And now this wasn't just normal McFarlane, this was McFarlane Toys Movie Maniacs, a subline dedicated to horror films. And Jason was in the first wave. As we can see here, he looks really nice. And it's said to be based on Jason Goes to Hell, but comparing it to the film design, there's a lot of differences, but it's not the worst. Includes a machete, an axe, a spear, and a stand with the movie poster, which is a nice accessory. And the mask is not removable, but if you pry it off, you can see that it does have a face, which is nice. There was also a bloody variant, which is very interesting and is my preferred version. I think it really brings out the paint details out. And so this is the version that I actually own. There was also a 2-pack version with him and Freddy, which came out several years before the film, and this version has even more blood painted on him, which I think really looks cool, but that's how they don't own it. As for the articulation, the head swivels, both arms swivel, the biceps swivel, the wrist swivel, the waist swivels, and the legs swivel. A lot of swivel joints on him, but it was the 90s, so it's fire. And yeah, I actually really love this figure. The stylization from McFarlane really makes it look nice on a shelf, even if it's not the most accurate to Jason Goes to Hell. However, McFarlane wasn't done just yet, as in 2001 we got a Jason X figure, and yeah, this looks amazing. And unlike the last figure, this looks basically perfect to the Jason X design, or Uber Jason from the film. He includes the film poster and his cyber-enhanced machete. As for the articulation, the head swivels, the right arm rotates, wrist rotates, the left arm's bicep swivels, the wrist rotates, and the waist rotates. And that's it. He's mostly just a statue, but you know what? For our only Uber Jason, this is a very cool looking statue. Just kind of sucks you can't really change his pose, but still, it's a good pose. In 2003, though, NECA was able to start making some horror figures based on this license after some McFarlane Toys employees left and went to NECA. The first of these was the Freddy vs. Jason Deluxe box set based on the film that released the exact same year. And this thing is amazing, and it's also kind of rare nowadays. Figures that look like statues when plugged into their base, but the base looks amazing. As for accessories, you get an alternate head for Freddy, an alternate hand for Jason where he's holding Freddy's head, and a machete for Jason to hold. You also can remove the mask on Jason and take the hat off of Freddy if you need to. As for the articulation, Jason's head barely moves. The arms rotate, wrists rotate, bicep swivels on one arm but not the other arm. Waist doesn't turn, no leg movement, but the ankles twist for some reason. So you're not great, but Freddy is about the same. Head rotates a bit, arms, bicep, wrists. Freddy does actually feature a waist swivel though, which is nice, but doesn't really do much, and the ankles also rotate. So yeah, they're definitely more statues than figures, but they look really great on the base. I should also mention that Jason was released on his own at some point. However, that release is not worth getting, I find, as it'll be updated soon enough. But if you can track down the box set, I highly recommend it, especially if you can get it for a good price, but that's going to be a bit hard to do. However, NECA had one other box set they wanted to make, and that was the Friday the 13th 25th anniversary box set based on part 1 and part 2 of the films. The diorama set is based on the shrine of Pamela Voorhees from the second movie, and the figures connect to it, and they look really nice. The accessories include a pickaxe, a knife, a normal axe, a machete, an alternate head for Jason, a bedpost, a shovel, and a bow and an arrow. Starting with Pamela, she does look very nice and pretty accurate to the actress Betsy Palmer from the movie. As for her articulation, her head is actually on a very nice ball joint, allowing for great range, but beyond that, all of her joints are swivel joints, just like the Jason from the last box set. And yeah, there's not much else to really say on Pamela, so let's move on to Jason. Jason looks really nice, looking like he jumped straight out of the screen, and honestly, this is a very good figure sculpt. The articulation is the same as his mom, though, so not much else to really comment on with him, but it is still cool that they made Sackhead Jason so early on, since this is one of the least popular designs for him. And yeah, this box set is absolutely amazing, and I highly recommend it if you can find it. Sadly, though, it is very expensive, but now that we're done with this, NECA took a bit of a break and let another company take over for a few years. That company was called Mezco Toys, and we're going to quickly highlight all the figures they made that relate to the Friday the 13th franchise right now. First up was their Part 3 Jason under the line Cinema of Fear, which all of them are called. We then got a Part 4 Jason based on the final chapter, which looks pretty good. We also got a 12-inch Friday the 13th Part 7 Jason, a Part 6 Jason, and also a Jason Goes to Hell figure, which looks a lot more accurate than the McFarlane one, and is to date the best looking figure based on the Jason Goes to Hell movie. And we even got a 2009 remake Jason, which was brand new at the time, which would have made this figure a tie-in figure. I only own the Part 6 Jason, and as such we will be talking about him. The figure itself looks very nice, keeping the same kind of detail as the NECA figure, but the articulation is actually better. The ball-jointed heads from the box set is back. We also got universal shoulder movement, an elbow joint, wrist swivel, wrist pivots, and even a ball-jointed waist. But sadly, the legs still do not move at all. But still, that's a marked improvement. And yeah, I'd say Mezco was a nice divergent from NECA, but after this, NECA would come back in full swing. After getting the license back, NECA created this 8-inch line called the Retro Cloth line, which has figures with cloth clothing on them, which makes for an interesting look. It kind of reminds me of the Mego superhero figures from the 1970s, which was an interesting choice to bring back. We got a Part 3 Jason, who does look pretty nice with the baggy clothing. There was also a bloodied version of the same figure to make it look more like Part 4. There's a Part 5 Roy Burns, the Jason impersonator, which is nice that they made him in his jumpsuit, and it looks pretty good with the clothing. Part 6 Jason, who doesn't look as nice, but I think it's alright. Part 2 Jason, who I think looks really well, especially with the sack on his head. And even an NES retro Jason that was exclusive to Toys R Us, and this is an awesome inclusion in the line that I like that they do. But their best, the one hands down, was the Pamela and Kid Jason Comic-Con exclusive 2-pack, as that is an awesome accessory, like 2-pack to make. Pamela looks really good with her clothing, as her wool sweater looks really great, and the Kid Jason is also pretty cool, and it is his only piece of merchandise, so this is obviously very rare. But Pamela also got another shot with the Zombie Pamela from Part 3, which did see a full release, unlike the last one, which was a Comic-Con exclusive. This looks a lot nicer, and I would say if you can get any of the retro cloth figures, get this, as this is super unique. And sadly, that was it for the retro cloth line for Friday the 13th right now. But with all that being said, let's move on to the modern action figures from NECA. Doing some quick cleanup during the 2000s, this Freddy vs. Jason I mentioned earlier was not the only single card release, as the Part 2 Jason from the box set was also released on its own, with an exclusive decapitated Pamela head, which was an awesome idea. But we also got an exclusive Jason that was not part of a box set. This is the Part 7 design that was not mentioned on the box. But once again, NECA's sculpting does really wonders, because this looks amazing, and it still includes the base. And fun fact, this is actually a remake, sort of, like a shrunken down version of the Part 7 Jason 18-inch figure that NECA made back in 2003. Going forward, NECA will make a ton of 18-inch figures that are just the 7-inch figures but blown up, but I won't be covering them as there's nothing really new there. In 2009, Jason Voorhees came back in the Friday the 13th remake, and so NECA capitalized by making a figure of him from that movie. I sadly do not own this figure, but it does have really good sculpting, but sadly the legs still do not move. But thankfully this would be the final Jason to not have movable legs from NECA. Around 2013, we got the single card release of Part 3 Jasons in both standard and battle damage version, just like the McFarlane days. The battle damage version includes a bloodied axe, a bloodied machete, and a bloodied face when you remove the helmet, which does look pretty cool. The standard release just comes with his normal machete and the spear gun. Spear gun is an awesome choice for an accessory, as that is the first thing he uses when he gets the hockey mask in the film, so that's the version I own. The articulation is far improved. Head is on a full ball joint. The arms are on universal. The elbows still only bend 90, but the wrist swivels, the torso and waist move. Legs finally can move all the directions, have a slight thigh swivel, 90-degree bend at the knee, and a little bit of ankle movement, which is pretty great. So these are marked improvements from what was before, but there's also a Comic-Con version, which is amazing. It comes in a retro box that looks like the old video game box. The Jason figure is colored in purple and blue like he was in the video game itself, and best of all, it glows in the dark. If you can get one of these figures, try and track that one down, but it is the most expensive. About a year later, we also got part 4 of Jason's in both Battle Damage and Standard again. Now, as for the differences, one has a very battered face and one has a less battered face. Both come with bloodied machetes, one comes with a bloodied knife, and the other one comes with a bloodied axe. Articulation is identical to the Part 3 Jason, as this is just a repaint, but it's still a good mold overall. But yeah, this would be the end of the single card releases, and now NECA would start their Ultimate line. The Ultimate line was the biggest Friday the 13th toy line, and the best one. I'm going to start with the figures that reuse the body molds that we just talked about. Starting with part 3, we can see that's a hybrid of the battle damaged and non-battle damaged versions, but now also adds a pitchfork, a screwdriver, a fire poker, and a small knife. I say it's a definite improvement over the singles. As for part 4, much of the same is applied here, but they added his tombstone, the corkscrew, an alternate hand, a hacksaw, and a small knife. And they even made a Part 5 Dream variant of Jason, which comes with 4 alternate heads, a damaged hand, a puffer air thing, a machete, a bloodied axe, and his tombstone. All of these are very awesome figures, and I'm very happy that they started out with the reused molds just to test the waters and gave us better versions of those hard-to-find original figures. Starting with part 2, I think this is one of the biggest improvements, going from basically a perfect borderline statue to remaking that statue but with articulation similar to the last 2 figures. I sadly do not own it, so I can't show any footage. Figure includes an alternate head, a decapitated Pamela head, fireplace, a pickaxe, machete, and some other stuff. The fireplace is my favorite accessory that he includes, as it looks really nice on display, especially if you get some good lighting on it. So yeah, I highly recommend him, and I really regret not grabbing him when I had the chance. Next, I want to talk about Part 5 Roy. Roy, the Jason impersonator, looks absolutely great, and they even has a removable mask where you can see his face. Comes with a lot of accessories, my favorite being the flare, but I also like the stick with the belt. And yeah, he's a great figure. He does seemingly reuse a lot of parts from the Michael Myers figures that NECA also makes, but that just makes sense due to the jumpsuit. Speaking of the jumpsuit, the articulation is actually really good on this guy, actually having double jointed elbows, but sadly the jumpsuit limits the waist articulation and the knee articulation, but you can still get him into some nice looking poses, especially if you bring all the accessories they give you. So yeah, I still recommend him, and is happy that he finally got a full action figure instead of just the retro cloth figure. Going on to the 2009 remake Jason, this figure is a marked improvement over the original, coming with a little more accessories than the original. I really like the axe, for example, and also the interchangeable heads, which is a nice touch. Now, as for the articulation, it is basically identical to the prior Jasons that I've already shown off. So nothing new to mention there, but still, using the articulation and the accessories, you can get some really awesome poses with him, especially with the burlap sack head that I really love. So yeah, I highly recommend this. This might be one of my favorite Jasons that NECA has released. Now to quickly highlight Part 6 Jason, I sadly do not own this figure, but I'd say it is a marked improvement over the Mezco figure that I do own from this film. I really like the accessories he comes with, as they can all be stored on his belt, which is awesome. He also comes with his tombstone, which is a nice addition. However, if you do get this figure, despite how nice he looks, I'd highly recommend you try and grab the Friday the 13th Camp Crystal Lake accessory kit, as that comes with this rock with a chain, which you can use to hook your Part 6 Jason on to look like he's floating under the water, and that is awesome. In fact, the accessory kit is also worth a pickup if you are on the fence about it. Another remake they did was the Freddy vs. Jason, and this guy looks absolutely amazing. He comes with 3 different masks, 2 different machetes, a fire effect for the machetes, and a teddy bear, which is an awesome little piece. I'd say the best accessory, though, is the flame machetes. That looks absolutely great. I sadly do not own this figure, so I can't do an articulation segment breakdown, but it's definitely better than the original. But sadly, unlike the original, there is no Freddy companion to go with him, even not sold separately. So you will have to use a different Freddy from NECA to recreate the battle, but still. As for the Jason, he is a great figure to grab, and I highly recommend him. And lastly, for the Ultimates, we have a Part 7 Jason based on the New Blood, and this figure is jam-packed with accessories. Special mention goes out to the Broken Mask and the Bush Cutter, which are my favorite accessories. The articulation is even better than before. Full ball-jointed head, universal shoulder movement, but get this, double-jointed elbows, which is already a big improvement for most of them, and even wrist pivots, which we haven't seen since the Mezco figure. We also have a full diaphragm joint in the waist, allowing for crunches side to side, which is awesome. As for the legs, they're pretty standard though, but nice thigh swivel. Sadly, the knees are still single jointed, and the ankles have a nice little pivot to them, which is also a little bit of an improvement than before. And yeah, with awesome detailing and paint, along with some really cool accessories that only make sense if you watch the film, and awesome shelf presence. This is my favorite NECA Jason that they made, but sadly it was also their last. A lawsuit about who owned the rights to what parts of the franchise put the entire series on hold, and not just the action figures but also all media appearances. But there was still a few left over that I haven't mentioned just yet. Ending off NECA, we got these Toonie Terror figures, which are designed to be stylized renditions of classic horror slashers, but done in the Scooby-Doo style, and it looks pretty good. They even had a video game version planned, but that's how they got canceled due to the lawsuit. Speaking of the video game version, though, they did eventually reissue that Comic-Con version, but now without the glow-in-the-dark paint, sadly. But it does come with a Mrs. Voorhees head on a stand, which is cool, and if you open the box, it plays the music from the video game, which I think is awesome. Funko also made a Friday the 13th reaction figure, which are designed to look like classic 1970s Star Wars figures, and yeah, it's an alright looking Jason, but Funko is also mostly known for their pops, and so we got a few of those, which I'll now take a look at. First up is this generic Jason, which does seem to be based on Freddy vs. Jason, which looks pretty cool, and there is a glow-in-the-dark chase variant if you're lucky enough to find it. Years later, we got a Part 2 Jason who looks a little better, and a Roy Burns who is a Hot Topic exclusive, and I'm happy they made him because he's a little more obscure. We also got an unmasked Jason as for Comic-Con, which looks really cool, and I'm happy they made that. We also got an NES Jason, who is actually pixelated, which is a nice change of pace than just a repaint. So speaking of repaints, you can also get it in the movie colors if you so desire, which is a nice little option. There was also a Freddy vs. Jason 2-pack that's Hot Topic exclusive that gives Jason some more blood on him. Funko also made this chibi Jason, who looks really cute, which is kind of weird, but hey, it's cool that it exists. Speaking of cute Jasons, we also got this Dorbs Jason, who looks even more cute, honestly, and for whatever reason, you can also get it in the NES colors. It's kind of strange how many NES Jason figures exist, technically, but that's it for merchandise for Jason that actually moves. Until the Jason Universe brand was established recently after the lawsuit finished, and with this new branding came a whole ton of merchandise, starting with a new Funko Pop based on this branding, though it does have some slight similarities to the Part 4 design. We also got this generic Jason based on the U2's style, which is a statue, but I'm still including it because it looks cool. And we even got this Pix Jason as a Hot Topic exclusive who looks really nice. But these are all just like merchandise that's stylized. What we needed is some proper action figures, and thankfully I got some good news on that front. Mezco at some point came back, not sure if it was before or after the Jason Universe branding, with this 1/12 scale Part 3 Jason with real cloth clothing who looks absolutely amazing. And unlike the retro cloth figures, he comes with a ridiculous amount of accessories, which may make this the definitive Jason if you collect the 1/12 scale. However, what was most exciting was NECA announcing an ultimate Pamela Voorhees from Friday the 13th Part 1, and she was awesome. She comes with so much accessories. Her likeness is far improved from her original figure. This is just something I never thought we'd see, but I'm so happy I was proven wrong, and I really want to get her one someday. But we also got this Tom Savini concept Jason, based on the Friday the 13th video game, where this is supposed to be Jason, where he's in hell and he's fighting the devil, and then he even comes with the devil's pitchfork as an accessory, and it looks awesome. And I also really hope this figure comes out, because it's still apparently pending licensor approval, but I desperately want this figure, so please, NECA, really solve that issue. And with that, we have reached the end of our Jason Voorhees and Friends toy history. Well, for the most part. I'm sure there's a few figures I missed here and there, but this is all the main ones that I could think of. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, please drop a like, please subscribe, and if there's a demand for it, more toy terror times will happen in the future. But for now, have a safe Halloween, everybody, and take care.